Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thanks again for joining me here. Hope you're having a great day. Thank you so much for being a phenomenal part of my life. I know I say that a lot. I probably sound like a broken record, but you are amazing and I deeply appreciate you. More so just how awesome you are with the comments below, and more importantly, liking, subscribing, and enabling notifications so you can be on top of these videos when they release. Now, to quickly give you a heads up, the price is moving up a little bit. I'm not sure if it's relevant here, but there was an announcement from Trump just saying that they're just going to eliminate all income tax and replace it with tariffs. So it's kind of comical if you want all the details. That's available on my Twitter. But generally speaking, it's interesting to say the least. Whether those things are still happening, and that's still a relevant part of our market. Anyways, all that being said, we can see some liquidation and, or more specifically in this case here, some open interest below the price. Basically, the order blocks are telling us that 89,200 is that heavy buy order there. So if the price pulls back to that range, there's some interest there. There's not a lot of selling pressure above the price too, though. So that kind of leads me to believe, even though it's kind of spread out, there's not like a specific outlier. Okay, so we're going to try to identify those with liquidation on the back end. That is much more of a beneficial tool than just the order blocks, but order blocks gives us a good indication of what's local, what's close by. We're going to look at volume here, but just to quickly summarize, the easy way to understand it is that we have a low volume still. So it's hard to trust any of these pumps, and most stable or basically just dominances, they're mostly going sideways with the exception of Ethereum absorbing some market capitalization. Now, some might say that ETH absorbing market capitalization is essentially an early sign of alt season. That's true in most cases. Ethereum does do pretty well with pushing first before other altcoins do too. But make no mistake here. Alt season is a thing of the past, and I'll more so explain what I mean by that too. I'm not a bear, don't by any stretch. I'm not attached to a bearish mindset, but I can tell you that it's very unlikely we're going to ever see alt season again based on just market manipulation. It's very standard. 4-year cycle is dead too, for that matter. Anyways, all that being said, liquidation, we want to double check this as well. So be sure to stick around. Let's take a closer look. All right, folks, before we jump on into the backend data, quick reminder, hit the like button, maybe even subscribe if you haven't yet already. We keep getting good 20 to 40 subscribers per video, and it's been pretty awesome. So really appreciate that. Thanks again for the vote of confidence. I'll never steer you wrong. I'll always shoot you straight in how the market looks, or at least how I interpret it. And the key takeaway here is that nobody's perfect in this industry, but I can tell you that we find good success in most cases by being patient traders. That's kind of the foundation. I want to kind of try to instill that into you. If you're impatient, maybe you want to consider watching so you can be more patient. If you're already patient, good for you. You're already a leg up on like 90% of other traders. Anyways, having said that, let's take a look at liquidation here. Now, when it comes to liquidation, the simple way to understand it here is that we have a lot above and below the price. And I know it sounds pretty rhetorical, of course, which it is, but we're kind of in this little range here, of 91.3 to 92.5. There's a rough estimate above and below the price of liquidation, more so to the upside. So it makes sense for the late shorts there to get hit here soon, and for the price to return fire or recover, or more importantly, retrace once we hit that level or that level's been swept. Those levels are closer to 92, 93,000. We'll look on the charts. I'll show you what that looks like here shortly. But when we look at liquidation, there's still a lot left to the upside. Shorts are shorting too heavy right now, and there's, I wouldn't say it's a bullish uptrend, but it's more bullish than bearish on the short-term time frame. Okay, so macro structure still doesn't look great. It's getting better, but the lower time frames are looking more beneficial. We've identified that for the last few days here. That's why I've kind of emphasized, considering longs over shorts at this point, it's inherently less risky, but it's also important to recognize that if we pull back, altcoins will too. They're moving fairly synonymous in a lot of ways with Bitcoin. Specifically, we take a look here at altcoin season index and we look at the amount of market cap. We're at 1.3 trillion. While that is a lot in the big picture, that's actually pretty low for altcoins specifically. So when we get back up over 1.5 trillion, that's when things are going to be in much better shape. So we're a long ways from that. This isn't super relevant, but it is important to recognize that most coins are performing very poorly versus Bitcoin still. And until this dynamic changes, specifically the top 100 market cap coins, where we can presume that we're going to be kind of stuck on stupid for a little while. Okay, so that's just kind of an indication there. Now we'll talk about this chart here in a moment, kind of explain that and why I put that out yesterday. But the concept remains the same. I was talking to my community yesterday about specific areas, like we're in this transition right now, or at least we were up until a couple of hours ago, where the price action needs to be able to break above or below certain levels so we can identify a trend. All that said, let's go ahead and see if we can find that here today, and I'll highlight those numbers here in a moment. First of all, 91.5 is that area of open interest here locally, so why don't we get a refresh here first, because it's obviously just an hour old. I think I pulled this up a little bit ago, we can see again that that same amount of open interest is pretty relevant on the larger timeframes. So 91.5 is still that potential resistance for us. We zoom in a little bit closer though, we can see that obviously 92 to 94,000 is a heavy amount of interest above the price. Now that does work like a magnet in a lot of ways, but it also tells us that that's a lot of resistance. So my general thought right now would be a consideration for a short at 93 to 94,000 after the heavy areas of liquidation have been swept. So once all this liquidation here is gone, then there's a good chance we'll have a better chance at shorting. Between now and then, the price could continue to run to those levels because market makers love to destroy opposition. Too many people are shorting right now. Okay, it's kind of the concept. What's interesting though is we have a lot of liquidation above the price with liquidation long delta in the green. It's actually a very good sign. It basically tells us there are more longs than shorts in the market, but there's more liquidation to be hit above. And that emphasizes a lot of potential continuation upwards based on the simple fact that that dynamic has shifted since yesterday. Right? Yesterday we were kind of stuck on stupid in that little break-even state. Now we've been maintaining a good positive bullish convergence based on liquidation delta in the past 24 hours. So that's generally a favorable sign. Okay, that does imply sustainability for this continuation higher. And that gives us more indication that this is more likely of a scenario for us than it would be to see this rejection here. Even though it's still a little early to tell, it's looking more indicative of further upside. Keep in mind, this could be just a fundamentally fueled push. So we got to be mindful of that. But let's take a look at the daily time frame. Recognize we're still in a bearish type of channel. Okay, so we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves and think we're just going to go straight up. But once more, we don't attach ourselves to trading patterns either, right? Because it can be very foolhardy to do that. It's a very narrow perspective, right? A lot of new traders will do that because it just seems like an easy solution. You'll eventually get destroyed. You'll realize that, okay, 20 years later, that wasn't a good idea. I say that now because I've been trading for over 20 years. And generally speaking, you go through phases of trying to find this one size fits all. There's no such thing. You got to look at everything. You got to do your due diligence, and you can't just be a casual trader and have good luck, because luck isn't really a part of trading. All right, it's okay. Sorry, it's a part of trading. It's just not the right part that you want to focus on because you have no control over it. All right. All that said, what we can control is understanding that we are shifting bullish here. We're not quite there yet, but getting above 50 on the RSI to me is a pretty good sign. We want to sustain above that for a longer period. We've seen fake outs in the past here where the price action essentially continues higher, thinking we're going to break this descending trend. We continue lower. That's why if you have a break of a descending trend and 50 on the RSI, you kind of combine those two things together, you're going to be in much better shape. And we're on the verge or the precipice of that right now. So this is good stuff for the most part. I'm not like super bullish on a larger structure, but I can tell you we're shifting that dynamic and effectively in better shape now than generally in most cases we have been recently. All that said, we're also establishing higher lows, of course, which is generally favorable. We did not lose our center line, as I talked about previously, for our validation of that short, or more so specifically a validation of the bear flag. In other words, when you cross below this level, just say we had done one of these and we're coming up to this halfway point, that's when you start to see a bearish type of divergence and the likelihood of further downside. But we have held this center line pretty well in this this type of ascending channel, and that's usually a favorable sign, implying that this upper range here should be tested. In other words, 94 to 95,000 seems like a much more likely target consideration than it would be 87 to 90,000. All right, so that's kind of the concept here based on what we see here so far. But the truth is we haven't broken through our local high here yet. We're still kind of trending in our point of control here at this point at 91.5. So it can be difficult to want to just jump on into a long position here. But most things we've identified here so far today imply or suggest further upside for Bitcoin. So those are just kind of some things that I see here on the charts. What do you see? Why don't you comment below and let me know if you see something perhaps even different, or more importantly, do you agree or disagree? There's no wrong or right answer, honestly. We never truly know until we get there. But it's be interesting to hear your thoughts. So those are my thoughts. What ears. We'll go ahead and see the next one. Quick heads up to our traders. We got a 15% discount on trading fees if you use my link to register through Bitunix. Links down below in the description. All right, folks, take a quick look here at Ethereum and double check a few important things here. And first of all, we do have, it's a very rough sketch, but this cup and handle type of pattern we want to pay attention to. So breaking above this 3,200 level today would be pretty huge. It's going to require Bitcoin to maintain 92,000 or higher, but I do personally feel that Bitcoin is kind of shifting its gears here with this liquidation delta shifting, or breaking bullish, or effectively remaining bullish for 24 hours longer, or longer rather. And we can also see a ton of liquidation for Bitcoin. So that's relevant to Ethereum because obviously ETH is a coin that has been performing well versus Bitcoin, and obviously it's doing even better than it has because it just broke through its local high, where Bitcoin still is yet to break its local high. Okay, so those are good signs. All right, so we've already identified yesterday that Ethereum's in good shape here. Looking at this chart, we can also recognize that it's still in really good shape. It's testing its upper resistance range of that 3,200 mark. Now, it can be difficult to want to take a long ride into that resistance. So in a perfect world, generally speaking, we want to wait for the price action to taper off 3150, 3160, and then consider a long at that point. That may not happen, of course. The price could continue to surge higher, but that's best practice to not try to FOMO into a breakout. And I just want to recommend you exercise caution when you consider taking longs at resistance, just because generally speaking they reject out the first time, or more importantly, this is a bearish type of divergence in the overall sense from the macro structure. All right. So if you missed any of my videos, we're still in the still underneath this descending trend line. We haven't broken above the 50-day SMA, nor have we broken above. Actually, this changing now. We're breaking now above 50 on the RSI. So there's some shifts here, as we've already identified with Bitcoin too, kind of shifting that dynamic. But more important, it's just one of those important things to recognize. It's difficult to want to just take a long at this exact level right into resistance. Now, granted, I think we just got an alert here, as a matter of fact, for our ETH trade there, 42% for our trade we took, 2 days ago, right? So, there's still profit to be taken, of course, to the upside. Absolutely don't consider a short at this point. But I can tell you, though, when I was looking at, I mentioned this in my community yesterday, we are looking for roughly shorts at 94 to 96K for Bitcoin, 33 to 34 for ETH, and 145 to 150 to Solana. Those are key level resistances. We're not there yet on any of these here, but those are areas I was looking for, all right? And still am, essentially. But between now and then, we don't just blindly take a short trade or try to just, short what we feel is the immediate top. We want to give it time, okay? All that said, daily time frame looks pretty good. We're shifting momentum. It's not perfect, but we're getting there. We're essentially testing our descending trend and putting ourselves in a position where Ethereum does look like a strong candidate for further upside, and more so a coin that you don't want to consider shorting just yet. I think it's too premature. Having said all that, looking at the 4-hour time frame, we want to recognize that our local high once more is about 3210. Just kind of scroll this guy up a little bit. We're right there at that level. Okay, so we're testing that resistance as we speak. Now, is there a good chance we can break that? Yeah, we have a lot of bullish convergences. Most everything looks pretty strong here on the front end. Let's double check the back end too, because I like to make sure that we do our due diligence here. Let's get a quick little refresh and make sure. Now, on the right-hand side, we got open interest. We got support at roughly 3130. That's kind of just, it's not an exact number there. We want to actually probably zoom out a little bit to get more so the macro understanding of what that looks like. But open interest is very helpful to kind of help understand specific areas that there's a lot of volume accumulation. All right, it kind of matches in a lot of ways with points of control. As we can see here, 3170 was that local resistance shelf, which was absolutely broken. We can also recognize too, liquidation delta went from 0 billion to 4 billion in the last probably hour, ever since hitting the record button, honestly, at this point. So what that tells us, we got a large amount of influx here, and that we're probably more likely to continue to progress higher to this 3250, maybe even 3300 range, based on, once more, liquidation above the price. So we combine all this stuff together that we looked at. A nice pattern, yes, that's one thing, but there's more convergences here and more specific numbers that are looking pretty beneficial and telling that we're likely to continue to progress higher, right? Just note that it is inherently more risky to consider a long position right here at the local resistance. Okay, so in a perfect world, the price consolidates at 3,200 today, and if it can spend some time in that range and Bitcoin doesn't pull back immediately, then we're probably in pretty good shape to continue higher. But as we can see, we got our point of control below the price. We're over 50 in the RSI. These are all some pretty important signs on the daily time frame. All right, and once more, those are signs we saw earlier on when we maintained above that point of control 2 days ago before we took our long position on Ethereum. So there's that too, just to kind of give you some food for thought. If you saw that video, you'll know why we took that, because I kind of explained that too. Once more, if you're part of my community, make sure you read through our trade alerts. I pretty much explained why we took that Ethereum trade, and it's all there, right there for you, kind of letting you know the reason for it. because if you're part of my community, you're not going to just be blindly taking trades because I'm just hoping for the best when I take them. I explain everything so you know full well how to do it yourself, and that's the whole concept. Speaking of which, there's a winter sale, basically 25 days of Christmas. There's 16 slots left available, if I'm not mistaken, and that is available in our Discord or obviously the comment section down below. But to give you some perspective, yeah, we're at 16 slots out of 25 available between now and the 31st. So we'll probably be sold out soon. Either way, thanks again so much. We'll look forward to seeing the next one. Have a great rest of your day. Take care. Friendly reminder to our traders, we got a 15% trading discount using my link below to register for Bitunix. You'll also automatically be eligible for future trading competitions through this exchange. It's an excellent exchange. There's no KYC required. Be sure to use my link down below to register. All right, folks, take a quick look here at Solana and double check what's going on here with this coin. Looks like it's pretty bullish on the short-term time frame. I was mentioning yesterday, still looking very good, not worth considering a short whatsoever. But the truth is we haven't broken through our local high here just yet, so it's important to recognize some key level resistances and that we are still effectively range-bound. So I still leaning towards Solana being moderately stuck on stupid until it breaks this range. But this is a positive sign in the overall sense, letting us know that further upside is still a distinct probability, especially if Bitcoin continues to trend towards 93, 94, 95,000, which seems to be the case so far here today. Bitcoin has a pretty big FU candle right here. Whether or not it has to do with Trump announcing that income tax will replace tariffs, that there's a possibility of that. We need to be mindful that this kind of price action is typical for crypto. So let's double check some important stuff and kind of just see what these key level resistances are in case you missed my video from yesterday. And if you did catch it, you'll probably know where we're going here, right? 140 to 142 is that local resistance shelf based on open interest. It's also the local resistance ranges where the price came up and pulled back and got rejected. The key takeaway here is that liquidation delta is still high to the downside. This is really weird to me to see more people shorting Solana at this point, based on the simple fact that Bitcoin is looking pretty decent. It's kind of a weird kind of anomaly, in my opinion, just based on how Solana in most cases either follows Ethereum or Bitcoin pretty well. While it is following it, it's still heavily suppressed. So that doesn't give me a lot of confidence to want to take a long position, but I can tell you 140, 145 is a distinct probability for that next area of liquidation to be hit here soon. Once more, that does require Bitcoin to continue to progress higher, but right now, it doesn't show any signs of wanting to slow down. So let's take a quick look at the 4-hour time frame and just kind of recognize, because we already know what the macro structure is here. We're in a descending trend. We're underneath a lot of moving averages. We're stuck on stupid underneath that 145 resistance shelf. Looking at the 4-hour time frame, though, not much has changed here. If we kind of look at this range, as far as volume is concerned, we have the most amount of volume just above the price, about 142. That's an area of confluence, right? You got volume resistance, you've got a point of control there, specifically that area of open interest. But there's also a lot of liquidation here too, right? So isn't that kind of funny how liquidation accumulates at key level resistance ranges? It's actually not that funny because that's really how it works. And it's important to recognize that it's not the other way around, right? You don't get liquidation at like liquidation isn't a thing at resistance. It's more so they kind of go hand in hand, I guess is the best way to describe it, without getting too detailed there. So what I'm trying to get at here is that we are seeing some lower time frame convergences and things are looking fairly positive here in the overall sense. It's just hard to want to say like take a long right now when we're testing our local high and we still got a lot of resistance above us. So if we were to take a long though, the recommendation in this situation, just based on how manipulative the market is right now, is to take profits when you can. So hypothetically, take a long right now and you jump on in. I would recommend securing profits between 142 and 145. That would be a 3 to 5% bump. Roughly, before we hit that key level resistance range. All right, so you can find some profit here, of course, don't get me wrong, but I think the realisticness of taking along right now to 160, 170, 180 is pretty low because we have a ton of reasons why the price will slow down and stop here soon, especially since Bitcoin is probably likely to run out of gas here in the relative near future once it's done sweeping some of this liquidation, which is actually very, very close now at this point. Ever since I started recording this, we can see that every of 93,000 is getting super close. In fact, there's a good wow, that's quite a lot actually. It's probably maybe 8 to 10 billion in liquidation that just occurred right now on Bitcoin, upwards of 92,800. And there's still a little bit more meat left on the bone. So that could spike Solana, but the fact that it's kind of stuck where it's at leads me to believe we're not going to see too much more of a push for Solana right now. Bitcoin maintains a range of 93, 95,000. different story altogether. Okay, but we'll reevaluate when we get there tomorrow. For right now, my vote of confidence is on Ethereum. ETH does look very strong today, and obviously Bitcoin too. But from a macro structure here, I'm not super convinced Solana has broken bullish yet. Okay, those are my thoughts. Don't hate me. I'm just telling you how it is. I hope you found benefit. And of course, make sure you check out Bitunix too, folks. Link down below for these guys. There's an awesome trading reward bonus, specifically something you can benefit from just by using my link to register. And we have these prize pools every single month. Okay, so awesome stuff. 50K is up for grabs. We have a high trading volume community, so it's really easy to achieve these goals here. So just use the exchange as you would normally, and I hope you find benefit there as well. Thanks again so much for taking your time to watch and learn here today. Like video, comment below if you get a chance. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.